Welcome to Bloom Today. We have an incredible show for you lined up. We're going to be asking, if you're married to someone, can it really be abuse?
Hi, I'm Paula Wallace, president of Bloom in the Dark, and this is
Ginny Priz, the single-handed serenity coach. Welcome to Bloom Today, where we talk about internal and external brokenness and how you can heal,
so that you can use the fertilizer of your past to bloom today. Hey everyone. So today we are talking about, if you're married to someone, can it still be abuse? And that's a hot topic in the church because marriage has such a high standard, with God having said things like, what God has joined together, let not man break asunder, right, Ginny?
Absolutely.
What did you get taught about marriage?
Oh, let's see. What did I get taught about marriage? Mostly, it wasn't from the church, to be honest with you. Mostly it was from culture, and it was from movies, and it was from music videos, and it was from just my friends and the family around me, of course. But marriage was something that we didn't talk about necessarily in my family, about divorce and marriage. We knew it was a possibility. And I will say this, that when I asked my mother one time, will you and Dad ever get a divorce? She said, I don't know, Ginny. I can't tell you the future. And that shocked me, because that wasn't the same message that I was getting from the world around me, because I thought you've got to have this marriage together, and I've got to be safe with this marriage. But my mother was very realistic with me in saying, I can't tell the future. I don't know what's going to happen. I hope not. Neither one of us want that, but I don't know what will happen down the road. And that was a huge shift for me at a pretty young age, to know that there's an option, or there's something that could happen down the road where maybe it's not as safe as I thought it was.
Well, for me it was the opposite, because I did get taught that marriage was everything. And the crazy part is, out of 7 aunts and uncles in my family, only one of them has not been married over 50 years. Like,
wow.
That does not fit the statistics of the country or the world or anything else at this point.
What is their secret?
Right. Well, that's the crazy part, is there being no other option in a lot of cases. Not that they don't really love each other. Sure. I do have an amazing family, but out of 6 children that I'm the 4th of, I'm the only one that's divorced.
Wow.
Everybody else in my family is married to their original spouse. Mm-hmm. And so marriage was taught as vows before God you just don't break.
Yeah.
And things may be better or worse, and in my case things got pretty worse.
Yeah.
And
that must have been really difficult for you to go through that, knowing that you were the first one or the only one to go through that.
Yes, it was psychologically really hard, because I felt like a colossal failure. I felt like I was destroying the family's record of perfection in marriage. I felt like I was disappointing God, disappointing my family. But I stayed in the marriage too long as it was, and it took me a long time to start breaking it down and understanding that in my life, marriage was an idol.
Wow.
So even when I was being hurt and going through damage, I was putting marriage above my health, above my safety, above my children, and that's not what God says.
Right, that's not God's heart for marriage. That's not what He intended for marriage. He never. I mean, when you think about it, when Adam and Eve first came together, became man and wife, they had not yet fallen. They were still in Eden, and everything was
and
safe.
Marriage is a good thing,
and it was to prosper them.
Yes, and I still believe in marriage, by the way, everybody, even though I am divorced. Mm-hmm. And I believe that God's heart within marriage is the heart for Christ for the church. It's representative. It's our only real earthly, solid, tangible vision of what that is. But I also know that whatever God puts together, Satan comes in.
Oh gosh, yes.
And twists and destroys and does harm to. And so within the confines of something that's supposed to be beautiful and nurturing and safe and what God has ordained, as our safe place. Satan comes in and does harm. And when that looks really ugly, that can be physical abuse, emotional abuse, it can be verbal abuse, it can be all different types of brokenness, even sexual abuse, which we go, well, you're married, how can it be abuse? Well, I've been asked that.
Yeah.
And the fact is that anytime somebody is using something to control or harm you, then it is abuse. And when God's talking about his heart, he has very specific things about his heart with truth.
Sure.
That goes against those lies.
Sure. So love and honor each other. You are on equal playing field when you start this, and you both have to make the same vows.
Right.
You do not, make different vows. You both have to come together and agree on the same things. You're on the same playing field. And then abuse, control is when you are lording over the other and using that for harm.
Right. And nothing in God's word says, I want you to harm other people.
Or each other, right, in any way within that relationship.
Right, and wedding vows do not give anyone the right to do harm to anybody else. Now,
it's
mind
not
you,
a purchase.
It's not a purchase. It is not a slavery sentence, especially not to the women who get told they have to submit.
Yes.
Which I thought, in a way, made me close to equivalent, possibly, to a slave. Because if I had to submit above all else, then the other person had the right to own me. And if I made a bad choice in who I married, then it was my bad choice to deal with that.
That you had to live with that.
For the rest of my life.
Right.
And the bad part is when you get to where you don't want to live anymore, you have a problem.
Gosh.
It actually is a problem. And so I want to talk about the three truths that help me counteract the fact that I had Satan twisting truth to where it was putting me in harm's way and making me believe a lie. Yeah. And the first thing is submission had to do with somebody first loving you and giving themselves for you like Christ did the church. Christ died for the church. Christ sacrificed for the church. Christ washed the disciples' feet.
Yes.
He was on his knees serving and washing their dirtiest places. He was nurturing. He was leading out of love and sacrificial love.
Absolutely.
And so when you look at submission as I'm going to give you permission to nurture me and to love me and to protect me.
Wow.
That's where I'm going to submit, is to that place where you can bring good and lift me up.
Not submission for the sake of submission.
Not submission that says, I'm going to put myself here so you can shove me down.
Right.
We're talking about submission where I'm giving you permission to lift me up.
Wow.
And
that's
then I can respect you when you're lifting me up. And when you're nurturing and protecting and guarding my heart and loving me the way Christ did. And then I had to understand that marriage was never intended to give anybody control over anybody else. And I know more traditionally women are the victims of abuse and not men, but in some cases men are the victim.
Absolutely.
And women are the ones lording it over and controlling and doing harm. And so understanding that truth means anytime there's an imbalance in control or manipulation or anything that's intentionally doing harm to somebody else. And it doesn't really matter if it's not physical. You didn't get broken bones. Though I've heard circumstances where people got broken bones and still said, oh, I wasn't a victim of domestic violence.
Sure.
But when you look at it, the verbal abuse, the psychological abuse, the emotional abuse can actually leave deeper wounds and do more harm long term.
Sure.
Though many times that includes physical abuse as well.
Right.
So you don't have just one type. But when you start understanding that marriage is intended to be a framework for protection and love and safety,
yes,
where you're respecting and submitting in a way of lifting each other up. And then the sickness and in health until death do us part is so much different than when it is bringing harm. So understanding the third part of God's heart to love and protect. Not abuse. His heart is to love and protect. And when I see that, and there's any kind of brokenness that is not loving or protecting, then I can reach out for help to my pastor or to a counselor or to a friend that I trust to say, this is what's going on. Is that okay? Is that normal? Because I may have been conditioned to believe it's okay when it's actually not.
Right. Well, and sometimes there's an aspect of forgiveness that happens by the abuser who, or the person who is trying to control, where they feel it's a compulsion. They're not really in charge of themselves, and even though they don't want to, they find themselves lashing out, and they'll apologize afterwards. But that apology does not invalidate the abuse in any way.
No, and that's where they have the option to actually go get help.
Yeah.
They can go get counseling. They can, in some cases, it's worked where they've separated for a while and both gotten help. And then as there was true healing and change, been able to come back together and actually maintain the marriage where it isn't continuing to do harm.
Right.
I have really good friends who did that, and they have a beautiful marriage now. But they went through some really hard times and stayed separate when they were unsafe for each other until they had worked through and really gotten help to dig deep into the causes and root of the damage so that they weren't doing harm to each other. Wow. And so there's so many different ways that God takes our heart and cares for it if we look to him for truth instead of going to religion or status or control, because his heart for us is so beautiful within that relationship.
Absolutely. And if you want to delve into this subject a little bit more and marinate in all of these good truths that we're talking about, you can go to bloomtodaytv.com and you can download the coaching tool for this week. That's going to help you kind of understand this a little bit further. And I think that we also had someone who had made a comment online that I would love to read, if I may, about this kind of subject. It says they had read the book, the Bloom in the Dark book, which is 30 true stories of women who have gone through all kinds of hurt and brokenness and abuse, and how they came out on the other side, how God helped them heal from that. And the comment was this really spoke to me about the mission of the book, and of course the charity Bloom in the Dark. Thank God he loves us in our darkest places and meets us where we are and works right down to our hurt, beautiful soul. He brings healing in all the brokenness and abuse when we don't hide our stories. But it does take courage, the encouragement of others, and the working of God. Thank you for being an inspiration to help me not hide. Very cool.
Awesome.
You know, and there's a woman that also shares her story, which I am so excited to introduce you guys to today. She's known around the world, and she's the winner of 7 Gospel Music Association Dove Awards. Vocalist, dancer, choreographer, mentor, Nicole C. Mullen. Nicole, will you come and join us at the kitchen table?
You get to come hang out with us. Ginny, why don't you give her a hand?
No.
Ginny's going to give you a hand.
Whatever. Can I get a hug?
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
you for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me.
Be with us.
Thank you.
Do you like our kitchen?
I do. I love the kitchen. Nice remodel and everything. Loving it.
Love it.
We're so enjoying it, and having you here and taking time out of your really busy schedule to hang out with us.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yes,
in our little space.
We what we would love to do. Can we share this Hey Girl video?
Yes.
A little bit of this.
Yes.
And, we'd love to watch this. Take a look at Nicole.
Just in case you ain't never been told, like a diamond coated in pure gold, you're a wonder to behold. Don't you know that everyone can see hidden treasure under lock and key? That's the protocol for royalty, and I'm wanting you to know. Hey girl, you're simply beautiful, and your frame is wonderful. Girl, you're simply beautiful, and your frame is wonderful. Right, the 35 is us too. From your hair down to your baby toe, God has made you valuable. Can't nobody rock it like you. Can't nobody rock it like you. Can't nobody rock it like you.
Girl, you're simply beautiful, and your frame is wonderful. Girl,